You have 10 seconds to live, I said, my voice like ice. I want you to call our daughter and tell her that you cheated on me. Tell her the truth. These will be your last words before the finale. And make sure your lover doesn't get too nervous. The police are already coming. He killed a man. Her lips trembled. She stood barefoot in the kitchen, mascara smudged, wearing the same black blouse she swore she bought for work. The phone in her hand shook as her eyes locked on mine, full of fear, rage, and something else, guilt. I had never seen her look small before. "Jake," she finally said, "you don't mean that. You're scaring me." Good. She should be scared. 10 minutes ago, I had no intention of saying those words. 10 minutes ago, I was just a husband, sitting alone in the dark, watching the GPS tracker on her car, watching her lie with every mile. I'd installed the tracker 2 weeks earlier, after the perfume that wasn't hers, after the meetings that ended past midnight, after she forgot how to kiss me but remembered how to lie without blinking. And tonight, she drove to the same motel again. Same room, same car parked outside. Only this time, there was blood involved. I don't know if fate has a twisted sense of humor, or if justice really does come in unexpected ways. But tonight, her perfect little affair went sideways. While she was busy playing house with her secret man, he was busy ending someone's life in the parking lot. Stabbed. Brutally. Over something stupid, a deal gone wrong, a grudge, who knows. But it was caught on camera. And guess who called the cops? Me. I stood in the shadows and watched it happen. I saw her run out, screaming, half-dressed. I watched her hands covered in blood that wasn't hers. I watched her lover panic like a boy who just realized real life doesn't come with a rewind button. Could have left. Could have disappeared and let the police clean up the mess. But no. I wanted answers. So I came home first. I waited. Lights off. House silent. And when she walked through the front door, shaking, pale, her blouse clinging to her skin from cold sweat, I turned on the lamp and said the words I'd been dying to say. "You have 10 seconds to live." She stared at me like I'd just slapped her soul. "Jake. Please. What are you talking about?" I stepped closer. "You thought you were cheating on a fool. But I saw everything. Every motel room. Every kiss. Every text. And now your little boy toy's a murderer. You picked the wrong fantasy." She backed against the wall, hands still clutching her phone. "I didn't mean to. Don't lie to me now. Not here. Not when it's already over." I picked up the landline and held it out. "Call Emily. Our daughter deserves to know what kind of woman raised her. She deserves the truth before I erase the last memory she has of you being innocent." Tears finally came, but they were too late. "Jake, please." 8 seconds. She pressed the phone to her ear with trembling fingers. Emily answered fast. She always did. "Mom. Are you okay?" The news said. "Emily?" She choked, her voice cracking. I cheated on your father. It was my fault. Everything. Elite. I broke us. And I'm so sorry." I stood in silence, listening, watching. Those were the words I needed. Not for revenge. For closure. Because the woman standing in front of me wasn't my wife anymore. She was just the echo of a broken choice. And her echo was about to fade. "Time's up," I whispered. She dropped the phone. Then came the knock at the door. The knock wasn't loud. Not dramatic. Just firm. Like they already knew what they'd find. She stood frozen in the middle of the hallway. Eyes wide. Lips parted. Tears streaking her foundation. The phone Emily had just hung up on was still buzzing on the floor. Another knock. Louder this time. I stepped forward. Opened the door. 2 officers. Both in black tactical gear. No hesitation in their posture. One of them glanced at me, the other at my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife. "Rachel Monroe?" the taller one asked. She didn't answer. Just nodded, barely able to hold herself upright. "You're being detained for questioning in connection to the homicide at 49th and Mercer. You have the right to remain silent." Her knees buckled halfway through the Miranda rights. I didn't rush to catch her. They hoisted her up by the arms, cuffed her wrists like it was routine. because for them it was, but to me it was something else. It was justice in slow motion. The officer glanced at me again. "You're her husband?" "Unfortunately," I said. "She made a call, confessed to infidelity, not the stabbing. She didn't do the stabbing. Her boyfriend did. And I've got the footage to prove it." Their eyes sharpened. "Footage?" I walked them to the kitchen, pulled up the security feed Travis had already sent to my laptop. Crystal clear footage of Eric, that worthless bastard, stabbing another man 3 times before running back into the motel. "She's not innocent," I added. "She might not have held the knife, but she knew what he was capable of. She covered for him." They exchanged a glance. That was enough for them to call for backup. They dragged her out while she kept muttering his name. "Eric, Eric, Eric," like some broken record. Like she was the victim here. He was already in custody. Caught at a gas station 20 minutes after the crime. Trying to act normal. But blood doesn't lie. Neither do security cams. And now both of them were going down. By noon the next day, the headlines had already started rolling out. Motel murder tied to love affair. Wife of local businessman linked to suspect. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Friends, family, colleagues. Even Emily, she called 3 times before I picked up. "Dad?" she said, voice cracking. "What the hell is happening?" I didn't know how to tell her the whole truth without ruining the last piece of her childhood. So I didn't sugarcoat it. "Your mom's been cheating on me for months. The guy she was with killed someone outside a motel. I found out. I told her to tell you herself." A long silence followed. Then, "Good." That surprised me. "You're not shocked?" "I've seen it coming. I just didn't want to believe it."
I'm sorry, Em.
"You didn't deserve this." "No," she said, voice hardening. "You didn't." After we hung up, I just sat in silence again. But this silence wasn't empty. It was loud with realization. I'd spent the last few months wondering how Rachel could do this. Wondering if I missed something. If I wasn't enough. If there was a moment I could have saved us. But the answer was simple. You can't save someone who enjoys the fall. She didn't slip. She jumped. With a smile. With full intention. And with a man who didn't just ruin her marriage, he ended someone's life. And she chose him. That was the part one kept replaying in my head. Not the betrayal, not even the murder, but her choice. She saw everything I gave her. A home. Loyalty. A daughter. A future. And she threw it all away for a quick thrill and a man with a violent past. Because she wanted to. By the end of that week, she was denied bail. Accessory to murder. Evidence tampering. Obstruction. Her face was everywhere. But no one defended her. No one reposted her crying Instagram stories. No one stood up for Rachel Monroe, the woman who let her lover bleed someone out in a parking lot. And me? I wasn't just free. I was reborn. The pity looks came at first. People unsure whether to say sorry or congrats. But I didn't need either. What I needed was clarity. And now I had it. She'd shown me exactly who she was. And now I was going to show her what happens when the man you betrayed rises from the ashes with nothing left to lose. 3 days after they locked her up, Rachel did what all manipulators do when cornered. She flipped the narrative. From her jail cell, she managed to get word to a tabloid blog. Some second-rate online gossip pit desperate for drama. They ran a story with the headline, "Wife framed in murder by jealous husband?" My face was blurred out, but anyone who knew us could read between the lines. According to the anonymous source, I was a controlling, abusive husband who snapped after discovering her new relationship and set up the entire thing out of jealousy. She even threw in some tear-jerking quote, "I'm scared for my life. I only hope the truth comes out." I laughed when I read it, not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. The cheater's final trick: play the victim harder than anyone else in the room. But this time, I was ready. I didn't call a lawyer. I called Emily, our daughter. I picked her up from campus that weekend. She got in the car, backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds in. She didn't even say hello, just asked, "Is it true she's blaming you now?" "Yup," I said. "She's insane." Emily muttered. They're eating it up in the comments. But people are already fighting back. Let them. You're not gonna respond? Oh, I will. But not with words. I had something better. A documentary-style interview channel reached out a few days earlier, one of those trending YouTube channels that dive into real crime, betrayal, viral drama. They wanted my side. They offered to keep the tone clean, not sensationalist, just the raw truth. I agreed. And when I sat down in front of that camera, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't hold back either. I told them everything. I talked about the betrayal, the manipulation, the threats. I described the night I told her she had 10 seconds to live, and I said it with the same cold stare I had back then.
No regrets. No sugarcoating.
But I didn't make it about revenge. I made it about truth. I didn't set her up, I said to the camera. She set herself on fire and screamed that I brought the match. All I did was stop covering the flames. When the interview aired, it exploded. Millions of views, thousands of comments, and the truth started pushing the lie back into its hole. People reposted clips of Rachel's fake tears from old TikToks, contrasting them with my calm, brutal honesty. A side-by-side of fantasy versus reality. Then the best part came. Eric flipped. Turns out, jail isn't so romantic when your murder weapon still has prints on it and the security cam shows your entire crime in 1080p. He cut a deal. Full confession. Testified that Rachel knew everything. That she begged him to make it go away. That she tried to help him hide the bloody shirt before he dumped it in a trash can 2 blocks away. And just like that, her little story crumbled. She went quiet after that. No more anonymous sources. No more quotes. Just her mugshot, cold and lonely, circling the internet like a warning. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. Not just my life, but my voice. I started writing again. Something I hadn't done since before the marriage. Blog posts.
OPDS. Podcast appearances.
Men from all over the country began messaging me. I thought I was the only one. Your story saved me. Now I know I'm not weak. I didn't mean to become a symbol. But maybe that's how healing works, not by forgetting the fire, but by walking others out of the flames. A month later, I stood outside the courthouse with Emily. Rachel's sentencing hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. She looked at me, eyes hard. You want to go in? No, I said. Let her see the empty seats. Let her know we've moved on. We walked away without looking back. That was the final punishment. She didn't get our attention. She got our silence. 2 months after Rachel's sentencing, the world stopped asking about her. No more texts. No more whispers. She became what all manipulators fear the most. Forgotten. And that's when she reached out again. It was a letter. Handwritten. The handwriting was unmistakable. That overly curvy R she always made. Like she was trying too hard to be delicate. I stared at the envelope for 5 minutes before I opened it. Inside, there was no apology.
No acceptance.
Just control disguised as closure. Jake, I know I made mistakes. But deep down, I think you still love me. We can rebuild. Emily will come around. Time heals everything. I hope you're not letting strangers poison your heart.
No signature.
Just her name at the bottom like nothing ever happened. I tossed the letter into the fire pit and watched it curl into ash. She didn't understand it was already over. Not because of the betrayal. Not even the murder. But because I'd finally stopped waiting for her to change. Rachel was my past. A twisted, cruel past that taught me more about pain than any man should ever have to learn. But now I was focused on what came next. And her name was Isla. I met Isla at a charity event Emily dragged me to. She worked in crisis therapy. Smart, sharp-tongued, the kind of woman who saw through bulls **** before the first handshake. I wasn't even trying to flirt. But she caught my attention the second she said, "You look like a man who's tired of pretending he's fine." I laughed. "That obvious?" She tilted her head.
No.
"But I've dated your kind before, the ones who got burned, then built walls around the ashes." We talked for 3 hours that night. Not once did she ask me about Rachel. And that felt good. Like I was finally a person again, not just a headline. I didn't rush into anything. Didn't dive headfirst into some romantic fantasy just because I was lonely. But Isla, she wasn't about fantasy. She was about truth. And that's something I'd gone too long without. She didn't treat me like a broken man. She treated me like a man with battle scars, and the difference mattered. One night, a few weeks into seeing each other, we sat on her apartment balcony with wine, city lights flickering like stars that got too close. "Do you ever think about going back?" she asked quietly. "To Rachel." She nodded. I looked her in the eyes and gave her the only answer that mattered. I wouldn't go back if the world ended and she was the last human left.
Isla smiled.
Good, because I don't do half-healed men. And you're almost there. She was right. Almost. Because healing isn't a straight line. Some nights I still woke up angry. Still saw her face when I closed my eyes. Not out of love, not out of missing her. Just pure, unfiltered disgust. But other nights, I remembered who I was before all of it. Before I was the husband she cheated on. Before the cops. The murder. The headlines. I remembered being Jake Monroe, the man who built something from scratch, who raised a daughter right, who knew how to laugh from the gut. That man was still in there. And Isla, she pulled him out piece by piece. Rachel wrote 2 more letters after that. I didn't open them. Burned them too. Then the prison sent a request. She wanted to speak to Emily. I asked my daughter what she wanted to do. She didn't even look up from her phone. Tell them I have no mother. I didn't press her. I just nodded. And in that moment, I realized something. Closure isn't something someone gives you. It's what you build when you finally stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even offer you a bandage. And I had finally stopped bleeding. I thought I was out. Thought the fire was dead. The ashes cooled. But monsters have a way of leaving embers behind. Started with a phone call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Jake Monroe. Yes. This is Detective Hill, County Homicide. We need to speak in person. It's about the Mercer Motel case. My stomach dropped. I thought that case was closed. It was, he said, until Eric made a new statement. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from the same detective who'd interrogated Eric the night of the murder. But this time, the look in his eyes wasn't tired. It was sharp. He gave us everything, Hill said. Not just about the murder, about Rachel. I clenched my fists. What does that mean? Hill slid a transcript across the table. You should read it yourself. I skimmed the first few lines, already bracing for more filth. But then I hit the line that made my vision blur. Rachel planned it. She told me the guy owed her. She said if I took care of it, we'd be set. She'd drain her husband's accounts and we'd disappear. I didn't stab him because I lost control. I did it because she asked me to. I froze. She used him. I whispered. More than you knew, Hill said. And he's flipping everything now because the plea deal fell apart. Turns out, he wasn't her first backup plan, just her dumbest. I stared at the pages, bile rising in my throat. The murder wasn't just some tragic accident she got caught up in. She chose it, pushed it, orchestrated it like she was writing a damn script. And she had every intention of letting me take the fall if things went sideways. All those months she slept beside me, she was plotting, smiling in my face while building my destruction behind it. You need to understand, Hill continued, voice low. She wanted him to kill you. That was the original plan. But Eric panicked. Changed the target last minute when things got messy. I looked up, stunned. She wanted me dead? According to him? Yes. For a moment, everything around me blurred. The room, the lights, the low hum of the AC. All I could hear was her voice that night. You have 10 seconds to live. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was just poetic symmetry. But she had no idea how close she came to making that real. Not for her, but for me. I walked out of that station numb. Not angry, not sad, just cold. Colder than I'd ever been. I sat in my car for 20 minutes before I drove. Called no one. Didn't even tell Emily. She didn't need to know her mother had once whispered death into a lover's ear and pointed it at her own father. Some truths are better buried. But Isla, I told her everything. We sat in her living room, her hand on my thigh, my jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth would crack. She tried to kill me, Isla. I know. I was sleeping next to a woman who wanted me gone. Not just betrayed, erased. She said nothing, just rubbed slow circles on my knee until the storm inside me stopped roaring. Then she whispered, "You survived her. That's your power now." She failed. And that was it. That was the moment I stopped feeling like a victim and started feeling like a survivor. Like a man who didn't just get through it, but walked out stronger. Rachel's trial was reopened. New charges. Conspiracy to commit murder. Attempted premeditated homicide. They added years to her sentence, decades probably.
No parole.
I didn't attend the hearing. I didn't need to. She no longer lived in my world. And now, finally, I was ready to live in mine. A week after Rachel's trial ended. Silently. Without media coverage, without fanfare. Something unexpected landed in my mailbox. No name. No return address. Just a plain envelope, yellowed at the edges, sealed with tape. Heavy. Too heavy for a letter. I knew. Even before I opened it, I knew. Because nothing from her ever came without weight. Inside was a small velvet box. And a note. It was never about the ring. It was always about control. But you wore it longer than I deserved. Do with it what you want.
Er.
I opened the box slowly. Inside was my wedding ring. Not hers.
Mine.
The same one I slipped on my finger 7 years ago in front of 100 guests, believing every word she whispered during our vows. I'd taken it off the night she left to cheat. Thrown it in a drawer without a second thought. But she still had it. Which meant, sometime between her betrayal and her arrest, she took it back. From the drawer. From my life. From me. Probably right under my nose. One of those early days when I still thought we could talk it out. She'd been holding on to it this whole time. Not as a keepsake. As a weapon. A reminder. Of what? Her power? Her ability to twist even something so personal into manipulation? I stared at the ring for a long time. It didn't feel like a symbol of love anymore. Felt like a shackle. A tiny circle of cold steel, once warm on my hand. Now mocking every second I let her lie to me. Every look, every dinner, every fake, "I love you." I closed the box and lit a match. I didn't burn the ring. No. I'm not a movie character, and gold doesn't melt that easily. But I burned the note. Every letter, every curve of her handwriting. Watched it crumple and vanish into flame in the fireplace. Then I tossed the ring into a locked box and buried it in the garage, under concrete and forgotten tools. Not to keep it, but to trap it. The past doesn't deserve fire. It deserves silence. Later that night, I told Isla about the package. We sat on the couch, her head on my chest, my fingers tracing the shape of her collarbone. "She's trying to crawl back in," I said. "She's trying to haunt you," Isla replied. "She's not winning. She already lost," she said, looking up. "You're here. She's not." I kissed her forehead. You know, I used to think healing meant forgetting. Like one day I'd wake up and not think about her at all. "You will," Isla whispered. "But not because you forced it. Because you finally replaced every memory with something better." I nodded slowly. She was right again. Rachel no longer lived in my head rent-free. She was behind glass now. A museum exhibit of every red flag I ignored, every second chance I gave too easily. And Isla, she wasn't a rebound. She was the proof that I didn't stay broken. We spent that night talking about everything else. Not Rachel. Not the trial. Just life. Her job. My writing. Emily, who was planning to transfer schools to be closer. We laughed. Cooked dinner. Danced barefoot in the kitchen to some old 90s R&B song we both knew too well. That night felt like something I hadn't known in years. Peace. Not the kind you chase. The kind you build. 2 days later, I got one last piece of mail. This time from Rachel's attorney. It was official. She'd signed over everything.
No appeals. No negotiations. No hidden traps.
Final divorce decree. Full rights to the house. No contest on finances. A handwritten clause at the end. I won't fight anymore. I know I already lost you. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't redemption. But it was closure. And with that, the last ghost fell silent. I never thought I'd stand at an altar again. Not after Rachel. Not after betrayal, manipulation, murder. Everything. For a long time, I believed that part of my life was over. Dead. But there I was, wearing a tailored navy suit, the ocean behind me, the sun dipping low into the horizon, and standing in front of me was Isla. She wasn't wearing a fairy tale dress.
No la cebal.
No show for the crowd. Just a simple white satin gown that hugged her body like it was meant to. Elegant, clean, real. Her hair was pulled back. Her eyes were clear. And when she looked at me, there was no mask. No game. Just love. It wasn't a big wedding. Just 20 people. Emily stood beside me, taller now, sharper, more grown up than I remembered. She gave me a wink before the ceremony started. A silent, powerful kind of blessing. She hadn't called anyone mom in over a year. But when she hugged Isla after the ceremony and said, "Thank you for saving him," I knew this wasn't a second chance. It was the right chance. Isla and I didn't exchange promises soaked in clichés or Pinterest quotes. We wrote our own vows. Mine were simple. I'm not promising perfection.
I'm promising truth.
I won't pretend I'm untouched by the past, but I swear it won't poison what we build. I vow to never make you pay for someone else's sins, and never let you carry mine alone. I know what fake love looks like now, and this is not it, she cried. I did too, but only when she whispered back, "I'll never be your bandage, Jake. I'll be your partner, your mirror, your match." We didn't need a priest. We needed peace. And that's exactly what we found. The reception was held in a private beach house we rented for the weekend. No grand speeches, no bouquet toss. Just good food, strong drinks, and a playlist Emily made, half 90s soul, half our favorite guilty pleasure songs. Travis gave a toast halfway through. Jake used to be the guy who couldn't even say, "I'm angry," without choking on it. And now, look at him, standing here with a woman who actually sees him, who didn't show up just to take, but to build. To Isla, you found gold in the ashes. Don't ever forget how rare that is. We clinked glasses. I hugged him longer than I meant to. The man had been there when I was at my lowest, sitting in silence at 3 a.m., staring at hotel footage of my wife betraying me. Now he was witnessing my highest. That meant something. Later that night, after most of the guests had gone to bed or passed out on the couches, Isla and I stood on the balcony in silence. No music, just the ocean's breath and the sound of her heartbeat against my chest. "I still don't believe it sometimes," I whispered. "What?" "That I got here. That you're real. That I didn't just bleed out and call it love." She pulled away just enough to look me in the eyes. "You didn't bleed out. You evolved." She was right. Rachel didn't break me. She revealed me, showed me the cracks I needed to fill myself. And Isla, she never tried to fix me. She just stood beside me while I did the work. That's love. Not saving someone. Choosing them fully without illusion. And as I held Isla close that night, our rings glinting in the moonlight, I knew something that finally made me whole. I was no longer the man who got cheated on, or the man who got nearly killed by his wife's lover, or the man who stared at betrayal and did nothing. I was the man who rebuilt, who endured, who won. And I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of love, not of pain, not of what comes next. If I could go back and speak to the man I used to be, the man sitting in that dark room watching his wife lie, destroy, and manipulate, I wouldn't try to comfort him. I wouldn't say, "It'll be okay," because the truth is it wasn't. Not at first. It was hell. But I'd sit down across from him. The version of me with shaking hands, hollow eyes, rage building in his chest like a volcano with nowhere to erupt. And I'd say the one thing no one told me. You're not weak because you loved the wrong person. You're strong because you're still here. You see, when betrayal hits a man, it doesn't look like tears or breakdowns, not at first. It looks like silence, like clenched jaws and nodding in front of friends while your world crumbles. It looks like scrolling through her texts at 3 a.m., searching for answers that won't come. We suffer quietly. We blame ourselves. We ask, what could I have done differently? But the truth? You could have been perfect, and she still would have lied. Because people like Rachel don't cheat because something is missing. They cheat because something in them is broken. And if you're a man reading this, sitting in the ruins of your marriage or your relationship, replaying everything, drowning in shame, listen to me. This is not your grave. It's your forge. You are not a victim. You are not less of a man. You are not what she said in anger. You are the man who saw the fire and walked through it. And if you haven't walked yet, get up. Even if you're crawling. Even if you don't know who you are without her lies wrapped around you like a noose. Get up. Here's what I've learned. 1. People show you who they are when they think you're powerless. That's when the mask drops. When they believe you can't leave. When they think they've broken you. That's when you see them, not the version they crafted, but the real creature underneath. 2. Forgiveness is optional. Closure is internal. Rachel never really apologized. And I stopped waiting for it. I didn't need her tears. I didn't need her guilt. I needed peace. And peace came the moment I accepted I'd never get answers that made sense. And that I didn't need them to heal. 3. Your pain is valid. But don't build a home in it. It's okay to hurt, to scream, to cry when no one's watching. But don't unpack your soul in that misery. Feel it. Then move. Slowly if you have to. But move. For love again. But smarter. I didn't think I'd ever trust again. But Isla wasn't a second chance. She was a new chance. And because I healed first, I didn't carry the venom of the past into something pure. Trust must be earned, yes. But it must also be given or you're not really living. 5. Most of all, don't let betrayal define you. It's a chapter, not the whole damn book. If I could, I'd tell the old me, yeah, you're going to suffer. You're going to feel like a fool, like a failure, like you weren't enough. But one day, you'll stand at a new altar with someone who sees you, who didn't fall in love with a mask, but with the man. And you'll be glad Rachel broke you. Because if she didn't, you never would have found yourself again. I don't wear the old ring anymore, but I wear the scars with pride. Because I earned them, and I survived her. And now I live for me. And that's the best revenge of all.